Greetings. Today's book is Wastelands, the true story of farm country on trial by Corban Addison, forward by John Grisham. What we have here is a story about hog country in North Carolina. That is on the eastern part of North Carolina, in the mountains and so forth, where there is all this plains, this area where the farming can occur. And there are people who have lived in this area for years and years and years, inherited houses and property from their parents. Most of these people are not wealthy. They are black people, and while they were living there peacefully for years, having their cookouts, having their church socials outside in the summer, and North Carolina is pretty nice, you know, in the summertime and so forth. What happened was that these big corporate dudes start building these gigantic hog facilities where they have like 10,000 hogs in one factory farm with all these barns, big barns, and cram them all in there. And then they have a lagoon, it's called, where all the stuff that runs off of the animals, the number ones and number twos, their piss and shit, goes into this big pond that's somehow lined with something so that it doesn't just go down into the groundwater. So where we have facilities to take care in the city where I'm living here, I go flush the toilet and it goes and it's treated in some kind of water treatment, something or other. And most cities have this, or they go into septic tanks or whatever. But here, they don't build that. They don't build anything to deal with the waste of the hogs, even though the hogs produce much more waste than humans do, it turns out. So a 300-pound hog is going to produce 11 pounds of shit a day. So that's what we're dealing with here. And so what happened was they create these hog farms, and right near where all people are living, and have these open air pits, the lagoons where all this stuff is going, and it ends up just stinking up the whole territory. And people who have lived in this area for years and years and years, they live in family homes handed down from previous generations. They now find that they can't operate outside. They can't even be in their homes pleasantly because of the odor that comes from the stink of the pigs, and it messes up their events, outdoor events, cookouts, church socials outside of the churches. Any kind of thing going on like that is outside can't happen. You go inside and shut the windows, well, maybe it comes inside too. So, you know, the writer, Mr. Addison, talks about this quite a bit, and about how when you're near this, the stink just sticks to you and stays in your clothing. There's one part where a guy is away from the place for a long time, and still he can smell it. He can smell it on something and doesn't know what it is. Eventually he finds out it's on his glasses. So he cleans his glasses, and that's where the stink has resided. They also do the spraying. Now, I'm not quite clear on the spraying. He was a little weak on exactly telling, or at least it didn't get into my consciousness properly in exactly telling us how what goes on with these hog farms, other than they have the spraying. They would spray stuff into the air. There's a liquid stuff that comes out of the lagoons, and just spray it into the air, and it lands, wherever it lands. There's a story of a woman who doesn't hang her laundry out anymore because when they spray, she puts out her laundry, she finds little brown specks in her laundry that is, from the pig's doo-doo. So that's not good. What this is a nuisance, and this is a tort nuisance suit that is eventually brought to these people after years and years and years. I mean, these people, the neighbors there, the citizens, they've petitioned to the government. They've sent, messages to whoever they can, trying to correct it. They complain, nothing ever happens. So ultimately, it ends up in court, and that is the story of the book. There's like 4 trials they have of separate cases of different plaintiffs. The plaintiffs end up finally getting a local law firm headed by a Mona Lisa Wallace, an activist lawyer who is from North Carolina and spent her life in North Carolina, and does these kind of cases of these tort cases against corporations and corporate malfeasance and all that stuff. So she finally sets about suing these the Smithfield Company, which owns all these pigs. Yeah, so okay, the factory farms, they're not owned by the farm owner. The farm is owned by the farm owner, but all the pigs are owned by this Smithfield thing, which is this big corporation that owns all these hogs. So they bring in the hogs, and then they pay the farmer like a few bucks for however many they raise and send to the slaughterhouse. So that's how the business runs. So they are suing the Smithfield people, not the individual farmers. Of course, then the farmers are all, they're going to try all this propaganda from the farm industry, acting as though the farmers are just good old friendly American farmers, the heartland of America. That's the kind of propaganda that they set up to protect this corporate entity, really, and make it look like the little guy that's being attacked by these money-grubbing lawyers. The guy that really does the trial is a lawyer from out of state, from Colorado, and he handles it quite nicely. So we go through all these trials. I think there was like 4 trials that they went through, and then we go into to the appeals and see what happens with the appeals. And so it's a point of a book about good guy lawyers, that are protecting people. I mean, there's a lot of bashing about lawyers, how horrible lawyers are, and of course, many are horrible, and many work for these horrible corporations, and they have some of those guys too on the other side. But these lawyers are the good guys, and they're doing the good fight, and it's a good story that comes out well in the end. I mean, it's sort of projected in the beginning in the prologue that it's going to come out okay. So I'm not revealing anything too much. Of course, then ultimately, I don't think he doesn't bring it to the point where this is all going on around 2018, 2019, where all these trials are going to go on. He doesn't really say in the end that they got the money, that people got the money. What does happen in the end is some of the farms have been shut down. Smithfield has pulled out and gone away, which is a solution, then the stink is gone when the pigs and all that are gone. So that is a victory there. But it doesn't say whether they got the money or not. Maybe they still haven't gotten the money. If you have a multi-million-dollar settlement, there's do you get the money right away? I don't think you do. So that's the book. How did I come by this book? I listened to a podcast called The Writer's Voice, hosted by Francisca Rihanna. Rihanna or Rianne? Anyway, it's a good show, and I've read several of the books that she's had the authors on. Some of them I liked, and some of them I didn't like so much. This one I liked just fine. I didn't find it so much a gripping, mysterious tale and all that. It's kind of what's going to go on, but you go and you get to know some of the people, the poor neighbors there who are the plaintiffs in this. You get to know some of them and their concerns and how this has messed up their lives, how this has messed up the lives of their children, and ultimately an appeals judge is the one that brings up how the animals were treated. That was not part of this at all. This is only a nuisance suit. It's not like a animal rights type suit. Like these poor animals, we have to save them. It's not about the animals at all. It's just about the nuisance that this ridiculous kind of raising of these pigs creates. With concentration of all these animals and so forth. So I'm not a big pork eater. I've never been a big pork eater, so I can look at this kind of righteously because it's like, not me. I'm not like bacon. I gotta have bacon. No. I don't really. I've had some bacon in my life, not very often, and I'm always like, well, what was this about? So it's nice and crispy and all that, but so no, I've never really been a big pork eater. I prefer other types of meats to pigs, and they tell us that the pigs are quite smart, and when you the part about what goes on in these as far as the animal welfare is really horrendous. Like how they live in these places is horrible. There's one story in there where apparently they were not being watched over well enough, and some bones were left, which meant that some of the pigs were eating the other pigs when they weren't fed properly or whatever. So they'll do stuff like that. So anyway, that's Wastelands, and that is about hog farms. And so if you want to read about that kind of thing, you can read this book. It's quite interesting, and you want to like lawyers for once instead of hate them. If you do, it's a good place to start, because the lawyers are the good guys, and the good guys who are on the righteous path of helping people. It took years to make all this happen. I mean, like decades of the people complaining. The older folks have died off already, and the younger folks are now the plaintiffs. And it took a long time for them to get any sort of hearing at all. And good for Mona Lisa Wallace and her team. And these things cost millions of dollars to take on these cases, and when a lawyer takes on a case like this, it's only basically on spec. If they don't win a cash settlement, they don't get paid. So that's it's a very speculative, and it's a very interesting, wild field in that way of this sort of corporate torque, illegal work. And I'm glad people are still doing it, and I'm glad the courts will still see some of these kind of things. As corporate power grows and grows, I don't know what will happen in the future. Like Smithfield, ultimately in the time of all these cases is owned by a Chinese company, because they need pork. So it's owned by this big Chinese company. So when and who are making enormous profits. So when the lawyers complain about the defense lawyers complain about the hard times of the independent farmer and all that, it rings hollow, because they are really backed by this big time international corporate entity that owns Smithfield now. So what's happening now, I don't really know. I mean, I think there's still this kind of stuff going on down there. It's not all cleaned up. I don't think the state has done anything to clean it all up. If there's flooding and all that, all the heavy rain and flooding, it can the stuff coming out of the lagoons. I'll put a picture up of a flooded lagoon, and you can see the brown stuff all around it, that it's been distributed through the rain and the flood to get all over everything. And it can get into the water supplies, it can get into the freshwater streams and lakes and stuff like that, and it's not a good thing. And it's all just done for the buck, to make a higher profit by not doing it right, by making it so big, by not having a real way to treat the what comes out of the pigs. He does talk about soil, something soil, super soil or something, but he doesn't really describe what that does. It's some kind of a treatment or something, some kind of a way that there were other solutions that they could have used to make this not so bad. He doesn't really talk about what this the super soils is. You can also cap these things and trap the methane that's coming off of the pond or the lagoon, and use that energy to power things, supposedly. So anyway, that's Wastelands, and that's the world of pork. So have yourself a pork chop, and we'll talk to you next time.